Hey, what's up everybody? This is Anthony. I'm happy to be back. We are making a video today partly to celebrate. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, so I wanted to thank everybody who is following along. It's been a little while since I posted a video, but I'm back. And today what we're going to do is build a plugin in WordPress that does this essentially. So you see this schedule appointment button. If you click that button, it'll allow this little screen to come up. And the first screen that you'll typically see is the available appointment screen. And you select a date, you select an available time on that date. Apparently I'm only available at 9 on that date. And then you will have name, email, and phone, and then there's other options as well that you can put in there. This is actually utilizing a plugin called Simply Schedule Appointments. And we're going to build our own wrapper plugin around it that's going to allow it to have the pop-up feature that you just saw, where you can click inside this and it'll pop up, and if you click outside it will go away. So just kind of meshing some things together that already exist out there. And so if you've never built a plugin, this is a good spot for you to be, because this will show you how to build a plugin from scratch that'll do something very basic, but you can expand upon that as you progress. I'm going to post a link in the description to what we're going to talk about today. So if you look over here on the side, you'll see we've got basically what we're going to follow, the tutorial. So this is out on my website. You can go through and follow it. I will post this video on the website as well, so that you can follow the tutorial and you can also watch the video. And if you're already on the website, welcome. So there's a couple things that you need in order to get started. The first is you need the Elementor plugin. So obviously you have to have WordPress installed. Once WordPress is installed, you need to have the Elementor plugin, which you can get by just clicking on the link here in my site, and you will go and download it and install it in your WordPress instance. Secondly, you'll need the Simply Schedule Appointments plugin. So if you go to that link right there, it's going to take you to their website where you can download it. You can also find it in the plugin repository of WordPress. And yeah, so once you get that going, that's pretty much all you'll need. If you want to get some of the other plugins that will allow you to do things like calls to action, like we've got right here at the bottom. First of all, Elementor does have a call to action option. It's just part of their pro version, so I would recommend supporting what they do. If you are just starting out and you're getting your feelers, just trying to figure out what do you want to do, and if you're not sure if you're wanting to invest in that yet, even though it may not be expensive to one, it may be to the next person. There are some other options out there once you go to the plugin page on WordPress and just search Elementor. You'll find Essential Add-ons is a good one. They take some of the pro plugins and make them free, and there's a few other ones out there as well. Header footer blocks is another one you can look for. So we are going to start by actually creating a plugin, like I said, and the plugin is going to be from scratch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and open up a text editor here, and let's just create a new file. I've got so much stuff in here. I'll just create it underneath. We'll do new file, and we'll call this, I think we even have a name here, SSA tech popup.php. So that's the name of our new file. I have no idea where it just got tossed. Let's see. There it is right there at the very bottom. And what we're going to do is take this code here, and we'll keep it easy for you. So you can just highlight through all this, and you can copy it and then paste it into your site or into your text editor. And let's close that. All right. So I'm just going to kind of walk through what some of this does if you're not familiar with how to build plugins or have never done this before. If you have, you can fast forward a little bit. But bottom line, plugin name, SS Popup, that's just whatever you want your plugin to be called. So I called it SS Popup because we're talking about a Simply Schedule pop-up, right? And that's what's going to show up in the back end of your WordPress site under the plugins list. It's going to show the name of the plugin there. Plugin URI is where the person would go to get the plugin if it was downloadable from somewhere. I just have this placeholder, which is my website name. The description is the description that shows up in the WordPress backend as well under the Add Plugins section. Author shows up, and then author URI. So these are required in order for you to basically have your plugin show up in the backend. So that's the first thing. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to play around with some hooks a little bit. Never mess with WordPress hooks. They're very cool. They allow you to basically jump in the middle of an executing code and do something. So if something's already going through the process, you will be able to jump in the middle of that process, intercept it, and make a change. And that's what we're going to do. So out of the box, simply schedule appointments just displays it's like there all the time, right? It just displays the calendar on your page. It's static. It doesn't do anything. So this is going to allow us to inject some CSS and JavaScript to apply the effect that we want. So the first thing is add action WP underscore enqueue underscore scripts. That is something that is in the WordPress codex. You're going to want to go check that out if you're not familiar with it. But essentially what it'll allow you to do is register your CSS styles to WordPress so that it all can be dumped out in the head of your page once it's time and everything else is processed and once the output starts getting put out. So then when you say add action WP and Q scripts, that is telling WordPress that once it's time to run that loop of all of the enqueues or all of the registers, run all of the functions that are associated with that. So the function that we're associating with it that's going to be executed, we're calling ss underscore p underscore register underscore my underscore scripts. All right, so you can call that whatever you want. The first argument is mandatory, that it's named that way. That is not your choice. The second one is your choice. Call it whatever you want. Just make sure it doesn't conflict with something else in your WordPress, and you're fine. Second thing, add filter. Filtering is a little bit different than adding an action. A filter is going to allow a value to be passed through as an argument and then passed out to continue into the next execution. So just think there's always going to be an argument that comes into add filter, and that argument that comes through is going to be a value. In this case, it's going to be the output here, the tag, and the attributes. And then what gets passed back is the output. So what this allows you to do is in the middle of receiving that output and sending that output back, you can change anything in the middle. And that's what we're going to do. It's going to allow us to basically enqueue our scripts, enqueue our styles, and inject that into our plugin. So that's pretty straightforward, I would say, but it can take some time to getting used to. 10 is the priority. In our case, it's pretty standard. People put 10, but if you want to make sure that your hook or your filter is executed, say first or last or whatever, just put a low number or a high number. A lot of people will put 9999 just to make sure that theirs is the last one that occurs and it'll overwrite anything that happened previously. A lot of times it's kind of messy. I don't recommend doing it that way. There's usually a better way to get something done, but you'll see that in a lot of plugins. It's pretty common. The 3 is for the number of arguments that are being passed through here. And so that number should match. If it's 2, then it should have a number 2. If it's 1, it should have the number 1. And then moving on to this function here. This function actually is the SSP register my scripts call, and that's where we register our scripts. So in normal speak, HTML speak, this would be something similar to doing an include of the style, the import of the style into the head of your site. And actually, this is just registering it, to be honest with you. So registering is going to allow you to enqueue it later utilizing only the handle that you give it. So we're registering simply schedule appointments JS, and we're registering simply schedule appointments CSS, and that's the name that I gave it. And once we register that, we're going to say where it's located. So in our case, this is where we're going to put it, and this is where we're going to put the CSS. And then down below, when we actually enqueue it, we can enqueue it simply calling the handle that we defined in the register. So hopefully that's not confusing. Just think there's a few steps involved. First is registering it, then is enqueuing it. And you'll also see in a lot of plugins people do the register and queue all at the same time. If you just do enqueue with the handle and then put in the URL, your WordPress backend will basically try to do the register and queue all at once, and it usually works just fine. Now what we're doing in here is this is actually where we decide how we're going to show this. So in my site I've got, or in this tutorial, I've got something called consultation phone call. This is going to be the name of the phone, of the when you set up your appointment and Simply Schedule appointments, when you go through and create your appointment, I should say, for the first time, once you install it, it's going to say, do you want to give your appointment a name? Because you can have multiple different appointment types. Once you give it a name, it's going to spit out some short code, which we'll take a look at in a little bit, that you can use. And that short code is going to give you the type. And so if you want to be very picky of what is going to pop up and what is not, maybe you want something to be there all the time showing, you may not want it to have these extra enqueues, then you may or may not want to have the attribute type listed. So what this is saying is if the attribute type is not set, and if it does not equal what we're looking for, then just return what we already came in with. Don't change anything. And of course, this is just checking the short code, which, I mean, if you're not familiar with short code, we'll talk about that here shortly, but it's making sure that the short code is the right short code, because every single piece of short code that you have in your site is going to be passed through this, and you can check to make sure that it's the short code you want to affect and do different things depending upon which one it is. So that is good. And so let's just say you go through, the booking is true, the attribute type is consultation phone call, then it's going to pass on to this next part and it's actually going to enqueue it, and that's the trigger to put it into the head of your site. And then, the script that we're going to build, both of these are going to be two files that we're going to build. Doesn't need to be two files, could be one, all of it could be in here, but I'm going to separate it out just to keep it distinct and separate for easy understanding and easier consuming. And oh yeah, so here's the JS at the bottom, I'm sorry. And then right here, we're including this external Google API's link jQuery so that we can use the basically the document load function of JavaScript or of jQuery. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute too. Not a huge deal, but this is something that you should put in there as well. All right, so that is done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, take a look at the next part. It says creating the JavaScript file. So we're going to create this file. The location that these files are going to go is listed at the top here, and I just highlighted it. But you're going to take this file and you're going to put it into a new one. And we're going to go ahead and call this, let me close all these extra, there we go. All right, so we said it will be called simply underscore schedule underscore appointments dot JS, okay? So we'll paste all of that in there. And so that last function that we just, well, not function, yeah, the last function call here that has the jQuery is going to allow us to use this here. There's different ways you can do this. You can put a $sign in the front, just depending on what you import. But that's what we've got. If I can undo that now, jQuery dot ready function. And once that's done, we are going to be able to do a few lines here. So basically, we're going to create our visual, our calendar, put it onto the screen so that it can be manipulated. And we're going to give it an ID. We're going to give it a couple classes, and that's what's going to allow us to manipulate said calendar. So we're going to finish this last part out here, and then we'll pick up on the CSS in the next video. But to finish this out, the first thing it does is it says go ahead and grab the demo button, add an on-click event, and when someone clicks it, take the scheduler and show it. That's all that means. The next one is get the modal scheduler, which is basically the modal is what is going to be appearing and what is not, what is disappearing, what you can, it's got like a little shadow in the back, you'll see that. And we're going to assign that to the variable modal. And finally, we're saying whenever the user clicks anywhere outside of the modal, close the modal. And that's what this is doing right here. So you can pretty much just copy and paste this out of the box without any issue. And so that is it. We're going to make one more file, which is a CSS file, and then we'll do the fun part, which is to actually input it into the page and make all of this work come together, and then we'll be able to close this out. So if you have any intermediate questions, toss them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. Cool. Thanks.